By 1809, the Pearl River Delta was under siege. A massive fleet moved through the smoke, systematically overwhelming every port in its path. When they hit a local village, they left 87 heads hanging from a single banyan tree. It was a clear signal to the local population. The fleet demanded total submission. Traditional maritime threats rarely reached this scale. Even at the height of his influence, the legendary Blackbeard commanded roughly 300 men. To understand the shift in scale, we look at the forces commanded by a woman named Zheng Yi Sao. Her command started with the same 300 men, then multiplied into a swarm of 70,000. This force size eclipsed the local naval defenses. Zheng Yi Sao held enough ships to seize control of the region's primary waterways, stalling the movement of imperial goods and challenging the state's authority over its own coast. Her origins were far removed from the rigid social hierarchy of the mainland. Born into poverty as a boat person, she lived her early life on the water, outside the reach of imperial law. She married a prominent pirate captain, but she acted as his strategic cooperator. Together, they established new methods for organizing the fractured local raiding fleets into a unified force. When her husband died suddenly in 1807, the imperial government anticipated that the coalition would dissolve into infighting. Instead, Zheng Yi Sao executed a systematic takeover. She moved into the power vacuum, she consolidated command, and secured loyalty from rival captains who led the various squadrons. By stabilizing the leadership, she prevented the fleet's collapse and began implementing a top-down structure that turned a loose collection of ships into a centralized organization. Coordinating 1,800 active ships required immense logistical support. Every vessel needed food, timber, and regular maintenance to remain seaworthy. To fund this overhead, Zheng Yi Sao replaced independent, chaotic raiding with a rigid legal framework. She mandated a registration law for all plundered loot. Every item captured at sea had to be logged in a centralized ledger before any distribution could occur, ensuring the organization's treasury remained full. Her internal policies focused on absolute discipline. Any instance of theft from the shared ledger or any unauthorized raiding was met with immediate public execution. These laws removed the autonomy of individual crews, creating a workforce that operated with high efficiency and strict adherence to her central command. This disciplined force allowed her to dominate the vital trade routes running through the South China Sea. By monitoring the natural trade winds shown here, her fleet identified where merchant traffic was most concentrated, establishing a formal tax bureau to monitor these corridors. This flowchart shows how she formalized the protection racket. A merchant ship pays a flat fee at a designated checkpoint and receives a stamped pirate passport. This icon signaled to other ships in the fleet to let the merchant pass unharmed. For most merchants, paying a set toll was a predictable business expense, far more sustainable than the risk of losing an entire cargo to a violent encounter. This recurring revenue model provided the fleet with a stable financial base that often surpassed the resources of the local government forces tasked with stopping them. By 1810, the regional economy reached a breaking point. The pirate monopoly had effectively halted maritime trade, cutting off the empire's primary source of customs revenue. The state's attempts to regain control failed. Embargoes were ignored, and when the Imperial Navy engaged her ships, the government suffered heavy losses, leaving the mandarins with no military path to victory. Facing an economic collapse, the government offered a final concession: full amnesty for the entire fleet if they would simply cease their operations. While many pirate leaders in history fought until their capture or death, Zheng Yi Sao used her dominant position to secure a long-term exit. With the empire unable to break the blockade, the Amnesty Offer became a liquidity event. Zheng Yi Sao approached the negotiation as a liquidation of her naval assets, converting her fleet's dominance into a permanent legal exit. She arrived at the government offices in Macau to finalize the deal, flanked by thousands of her followers as a reminder of her force. She secured terms that allowed her to keep her accumulated wealth while providing legal immunity for her sailors, effectively folding the organization into the state's legal framework. She retired with her riches intact, achieving a peaceful transition that was virtually unheard of for an outlaw of her scale. When a state's infrastructure fails to secure its own borders, independent systems will rise to fill the void. By treating piracy as a structured enterprise, Zheng Yi Sao proved that even an outlaw can force an empire to the bargaining table. she remains history's most successful pirate CEO.